I'm a part of a 70-year-old legacy, geared to go faster, multiplying pedal power, made to be tough and stand the test of time. Tires tuned for all terrains. I'm always eager to explore. Fitted with a comfortable saddle, suspension to tackle every route. I am in search for my rider, the ones ready for an adventure. I am from the house of Hero Cycles, here to ask you one question. Are you my perfect match?
The world is waiting for tomorrow. It's waiting for more from the future. Technology and perfection have joined hands to give the world a new heart. The heart from the future, powering the new generation of 100cc bikes, presenting a new revolutionary 100cc range from Hero.
Everybody dreams, but only a few dive right in, braving the sands of time, choosing the steep climb to their goals, running against the odds to get closer to their dream. It's never easy, and everyone wishes there was help at hand. I was born to hold the hands of 1 billion dreamers, to facilitate the decades-old vision of social mobility, to make sure that every individual has the courage to dream. And ever since I was christened Hero FinCorp, I haven't looked back. Catalyzing small accomplishments that give way to luxuries. From beautiful milestones to life-changing opportunities. I don't consider myself the giver. For me, every individual's dream are my own. Quick, transparent, and easy. I aspire to be the confidant every step of the way. Riding the waves of economic change and development, I have partnered with many along the way. Working shoulder to shoulder to ensure hope reaches the farthest corners of my country. Technology, an old friend, has made us sharper, faster and better. As a result, millions of dreams have been achieved in this journey. There are 1 billion more to be nurtured. Riding the dreams I helped realize, today I walk beyond the horizon. Embracing the sun as new dreams dawn upon my awakened country. Hero FinCorp, partnering dreams.
Is there a university that can bring the classroom closer to the workplace? That can balance theory with practice? That can seamlessly merge the present with the future? Is there a university that can take you from here to the world? BML Munjal University offers engineering and management programs mentored by Imperial College London, promoted by the Hero Group. BML Munjal University.
From the bylanes of Kamalia and the rugged landscapes of Quetta, they escaped to India with little more than the shirts on their backs. In the partition-ravaged cities of Amritsar, Agra and Delhi, 4 of the 6 Munjal brothers, Dayanand, Satyanand, Brij Mohanlal and Om Prakash, built their business part by part. Armed with nothing but self-belief, the brothers began with trading and then manufacturing bicycle parts, which soon evolved into the production of bicycles. For post-independence India, the Hero bicycle gave wings to the aspirations of the common man. By 1986, 30 years after its inception, Hero Cycles became the largest bicycle maker in the world. In the next 15 years, the motorcycle venture, Hero Honda, repeated the feat. And both pole positions are held firmly even today. Hero's story is about humble beginnings, the refugee entrepreneurial spirit, hard work, and zeal. It looks at how 4 brothers with little formal education created a world-class enterprise. This is the incredible tale of a principle-driven organization that created exceptional value for a society that desperately needed transportation. How did 4 brothers with distinct personalities work like a cohesive unit and build a manufacturing behemoth? How did they synchronize their strengths? How did they resolve their differences, if any? The story goes deep inside the family spirit, the parivar, that brought together employees, customers, channel partners, suppliers and local communities to create success, welfare and well-being for millions. This is the making of Hero. 4 brothers, 2 wheels, and a revolution that shaped India.
With a passion for development, this passionate edupreneur is reimagining education and challenging India's employment paradox. To make the future possible for all of us, this third-generation Hero Group entrepreneur is ready to transform our youth's tomorrow. Akshay Munjal.
Hi, and welcome to the future of learning. Before I get to that, let me tell you a little bit about myself. I'm Akshay Munjal, a third generation entrepreneur, and very fortunate to have the privilege to carry Hero Group's legacy. Let me tell you a little bit about the group. As you may be aware, Hero Group started in 1956 by manufacturing cycles, and from manufacturing cycles, it progressed to manufacturing motorcycles, and today is a large diversified group. Business interests ranging from energy to electronics, financial services, whatnot. Whatever the group did, it was for the benefit of India. That is something which has been very strongly ingrained. Any business or any venture we do, we always ask ourselves, how will this benefit our beautiful nation? As Hero Group, we strongly believe that we have to build the country together, be it through our industrial ventures or be it through our education initiatives. That is the philosophy we've always carried. Now, today what I want to share with you is something which we feel is revolutionary. We have reimagined the way we learn, and we are the future of education. Today, I'm very excited to launch Hero Wired. Wired is a combination of two words, virtual and education. We believe Hero Wired will be the future of learning. Hero Wired will change the way we learn and help address some of the big skill challenges the country faces. As you know, on one hand, we have a very large population going through higher education are unemployable. At the same time, we have industry which is starved for talent. And thirdly, the government wants to increase our gross enrollment ratio, take it from 26% to 50%. If we continue doing what we are doing, we are not solving the problem. We will end up producing more graduates who are also unemployable. That is the problem we want to solve. We want to break this vicious cycle. We are going to do this by partnering with some of the best global education institutions and universities, bringing in experienced faculty and industry practitioners, and combining that with the best-in-class technology system. A combination of these three will give our learners an opportunity to learn from the best, with the best content, and using the best technology available. This is how we are going to reimagine education.
Your comfort zone starts where the questions you ask start making the experts uncomfortable. But then you aren't even here for anything comfortable. Not for a cushy job, not for a 9 to 5, not for a fancy designation. You're not made to settle for anything less than what ignites your spirit. You're not here to write code. You are here to rewrite the future. You're not made to design games. You are here to change the game. You're not here to mark your attendance. You're here to leave your mark on the world. You're not here to be created for jobs, but to have jobs be created for you. You're not here for the purpose of making a living. You are here to make living full of purpose. You're not here to upgrade your skills. You are here to upgrade the life of billions. You're not here for the rat race. You are made for the human race. You are not made for anything small. In fact, you are not made for anything less than creating a dent in the universe. Hero Wired. Be made for big things.
At Hero Wired, we believe you are made for big things. Our expertise, our experience, our industry relevance, and the global partnerships bring together everything you need to reach for the stars. Welcome to Hero Wired. Get ready to get wired.
A legend on the field and off. Sportsperson extraordinaire. A reservoir of strength, discipline, and passion. A man with unwavering conviction. A Padma Shri recipient. Former captain of the Indian cricket team and the president of the BCCI, Sourav Ganguly.
It's my absolute pleasure and honor to be here with Mr. Sourav Ganguly today. He is someone who needs no introduction. From his test debut in 1996, the famous test debut where he made 131 runs in Lords, to being now the president of BCCI. He is a very accomplished gentleman who has evolved from being a sports person to a very able administrator. Thank you so much, Mr. Ganguly, for being here with us today. It's an absolute honor and privilege. Let me start by asking you one question. You've evolved so much as a sports person to become an able administrator. What is it that kept you going? Because from the outside, one assumes that sportsmen don't have to evolve. But in your case, you've continuously evolved and grown as a person. Would love to hear your thoughts on how you manage this.
I think with time your mind changes, and it's also about opportunities. Once I finished playing in 2013, I got an opportunity in my own state cricket association to take the responsibility. It was run by a very established and a renowned administrator, Mr. Jagmohan Dalmia, and then I came over. Unfortunately, we lost him in 2015, and then the entire responsibility came on me to look after the sports in that part of the world. I kept doing that. Then I spent 5 years there, and then got the opportunity to lead BCCI. I think a lot of it depends on how much you are able to shoulder responsibilities. Because leadership is very important in every aspect of life. Whether you're a sportsman. I started as a young player and then went on to become captain of India in the year 2000, 99, 2000, and then captain till 2006. So I was used to taking responsibilities. I was used to leading under pressure. I was used to delivering under pressure. And from that point of view, maybe people had faith in me that, he's capable enough to do the leadership roles in other aspects as well. And you learn everything in life. It's not that you come ready made with everything. When I started as a player, if anybody would have told Saurav you'll captain more than 200 games for India, I would say, oh, you must be joking. But I did that. With every day you learned, every day you adapted. And it's the same thing with administration. You adjust, you learn, you share, and most importantly, you require the ability to take decisions, because decision making is important. A lot of us fall into the prey of letting things drift, as they say in sport. But a good administrator, a good leader takes decisions on the spot. It may not be right all the time, but if you have faith and if you believe that you're capable of doing things, majority of your decisions will be right.
I think that's great advice. That continuously keep learning, keep adapting, and keep taking decisions. Mr. Ganguly, if you could go back in time, what is advice A you would give yourself if you could turn back to 1996? And B, for the younger generations today, what do you think are the two or three most critical skills they should have?
I think for me, the first and most important skill which you need to grow in your professional world is your desperation to succeed. And I'm talking about sport. When you play at the top level, you obviously come with that skill. You come with the skill to perform at the top level. But the best in the business and the best to survive for a long period of time are desperate to succeed and do very, very well. I think that is very, very important. Secondly, it's very important to be honest to yourself. Honest to yourself in terms of where you are heading, how good you are, and what you need to be at your best at the top level. That is very important. And thirdly for me is your as I said, desperation, honest, and how much you work hard. There are very few people who are born with inborn abilities, inborn talent, who see them through. The majority of them work hard to direct their talent in the right direction. So from that point of view, this is very, very important, how much you're ready to grind in everything. There will be ups and downs, there'll be good days, there'll be bad days, there'll be times when you feel that nothing's working, but you need to persist. As you've seen in business, you're such a fantastically successful brand over a long period of time. I'm sure you have your ups and downs too. You ask your father, you ask your grandfather, who've actually built this business on their own with all their sweat and hardships and effort and labor. They will tell you that every day doesn't go the same way. There are good days, there are bad days, and you need to fight through those periods. I think that is very, very important. You don't get things easy, and you should not get things easy in life, because then you realize how important it is to you. And once you get it, it's important to understand its value and keep working hard for it.
In your view, what according to you does this generation have today which you didn't have when you started cricket, in terms of skills?
I think this generation has enormous exposure. I look at my family, my daughter, what she knows, how much she's exposed to the world at the age of 18, 19. I was not even 25% of that. I think they have this huge exposure to the world, which helps them to learn things. The media, the digital media, the television media have just gone to a different level. It brings you very closer to everything in the world. You can sit in your drawing room and see how a Tiger Woods becomes successful, see how a Pete Sampras or a Rafael Nadal becomes successful, or a Virat Kohli or a Sachin Tendulkar becomes successful. And you try and emulate that. You try and understand how they develop their skills and become successful themselves. So you got so much exposure to all your role models, and how they train, how they work, and how they behave to be the best in the business. I think for the modern day generation, exposure has been enormous, and I think it helps. It also helps them to become fearless, because they realize that things are available at their doorstep, and if they make an effort, and if they're desperate to succeed, as I said, they'll be successful. So they're fearless. You look at this current Indian cricket team. You see the players, the likes of Rishabh Pant and Hardik Pandya, and some of the young fast bowlers who have come at this level. You just see that when they walk out into the international arena, they're ready. They're not just ready skill wise, but they're ready mentally also, which is very, very important.
Being an Indian cricket player, I would assume, is one of the toughest or one of the most highest pressure jobs in the world. Every action is under such close scrutiny. How did you ever, especially as when you were a captain of the cricket team? I cannot even imagine the kind of pressure one would have to deal with. How did you be the captain and manage it so beautifully?
I think firstly, being a captain was a huge honor. I had the honor and the opportunity to lead India, and for me, pressure, and I think it's the same for you as well, and for anyone. Pressure is something which you have to get used to it. It is a must in your life. You have to find a way to accept pressure. When I finished playing cricket, somebody asked me, when I just finished 2 or 3 months later. He said, "What you miss the most, Saurav?" I said, I miss that nervousness in the morning at 7 o'clock, when I woke up and I'm getting ready. I'm wearing my track bottoms and getting my shoes ready. I have to go and play a test match. I'm under pressure to perform. I know I cannot afford to fail. I know if I perform well by evening 4:30, I'll be a hero to all the people in the country. So I miss that challenge. I miss that pressure. I miss that expectation every morning. And I think that is something which every individual should learn to embrace. uh, I you should look at every situation as an opportunity. When somebody said that, what did you feel when you were asked to bat at number 3 in the first test match of your career? For me, it was an opportunity. I had two ways of looking at it. It is, oh God, I'm going to bat at number 3 with the new ball against the best fast bowlers in the world. Or I look at it this way: hey, listen, I've got an opportunity at 3 to make a career. And I think that takes off the pressure from you. And you'll realize that once you start living in a pressure cooker situation, your body and mind adjusts to it. Your body and mind starts accepting the pressure, and you start delivering under pressure. And then when you get into a situation where things are not under you're not under pressure, and everything is smooth, you actually lose that fight and that zeal in you, the strive in you to become the best. So I think pressure for everyone is important. The market pressure for you is important. The pressure of performance for an athlete is important. The pressure of holding on to a place in the national team is very, very important, because it actually gets you to be at your best. Nervousness is good. Somebody asked me that, do you feel nervous? I said, of course, the best in the business has felt nervous. And nervousness actually helps you to become better, play better, and adjust better. So accept nervousness before a game and utilize it positively to help you increase your performance.
No, I think that's a great way of looking at it. When you were playing cricket and when you started captaining the Indian cricket team, at that stage also, how much of your time were you going back and putting into practice? Were you looking at all the matches, how you got out, or do you continuously improve your technique? Or at that stage, you've reached a stage where this is my technique and this is how I play?
Yes, you get to a point that this is my technique and this is how I play, because nobody is perfect. Everybody has deficiencies, everybody makes mistakes, but what you do is you you become better with your own way of scoring runs. I played the cover drive well. There was somebody else at the other end who did not play the cover drive well, played on the onside better than I did, but both of us found our way to score runs. And I think that's very, very important. You have to find a way to adapt your technique and master that technique. Your approach to business, your approach to making motorcycles would be different from another brand's approach of making motorcycles who you compete. But you also have to understand that's the way it is for you, and that's the way you will be successful. So sometimes we spend a lot of time looking over the shoulder and see what the others are trying to do, what is others techniques are, what others manufacturing systems are. Yes, it's important. It's important to be aware of how somebody else is becoming successful. But at the end of the day, the good successful ones make the best of what they have and the best of the talent they possess. And I think that is very, very important.
That's very good to know. If you look at the American system, they have a very well defined sporting environment culture embedded right from junior school, and they pick up their talent from colleges. Do you see India also going down that route?
Yeah, absolutely. Like the way cricket has developed from the grassroots level, the under 15s, the under 19s. I think every other sport will have to. You look at the grassroots programs which football has taken now, the ISL has taken now over the last 4 or 5 years to develop young Indian footballers. Look at badminton. Some of these academies, some of the great former badminton players like Pulela Gopichand and all, they've started producing wonderful champions in that sport. The likes of Saina Nehwal and the others who are so popular in India. It's important to create a system of sport in this country. Create a system where young players start training from a very young age, and they are handheld, they are guided to become one of the best players in the world. And that is going to happen. As I said, India has become a fabulously open country to the world. People look up to India, and I can see it. So the exposure is enormous. People are aware. The people want to compete with the world. The people want to beat the Western world in terms of business, in terms of sports, in terms of cinema. They all want to get better. So there's a massive urge in India to compete with the Western world and tell them, hey, listen, we are as good as you are. And I think that's a great sign in the Indian system.
Great. Let me ask you a couple of last questions before we wrap up. Education is something which is very close to my heart, and I believe it's something which you also follow or are very close to education. In your view, what should Indian, either the school system or higher education, what are the changes we should make so that our graduates are more employable?
I think education in our country is a very strong foundation. But as you rightly said, that with time things develop, things change. I think education has to be merged with sports as well. Education has to be merged with overall development of the individual. Maybe in films, maybe in artists, maybe somebody wants to be a musician. It should not be books, and college all the time, because that's what some of the schools tend to do. Get those young boys and girls to get too much engrossed in books and other sorts of studies. I think holistic and overall development of an individual is very important. I firmly believe that you can do both. You can study, you can play, you can learn music, you can learn art, you can learn dance, and become an overall developed person in your society. Actually, at a young age, our children spend more time with the teachers and their friends than they spend time at home. So I think school has a huge influence on overall development of young boys and girls, and I think they have to be a lot more open. They have to allow the young boys and girls to do what they want to do, to progress with the career they want, rather than putting things on them. I think a lot more openness is required from the educational part of our system.
Great. Thank you so much, Mr. Ganguly, for taking out time to have this conversation with us.
A pioneer in Indian banking, she has shattered multiple glass ceilings and has been striving to make finance inclusive. She is passionate about upskilling the next generation, a Padma Shri recipient and titan of industry, the chairperson of HSBC AMC, Naina Lal Kirwai.
Hi, my name is Sushma Bharat. I head programs and marketing at Hero Wired. Today we have with us Naina Lal Kirwai. Ma'am, it's so nice to have you with us, and I'm really looking forward to our chat. I want to talk to you about learning, about education, about edtech, about your career, and about some advice that you can give us and to the people who are watching today.
I'm honored, delighted to be with you.
So I'd like to actually kickstart off by asking that in all your years of experience, do you think there's been a change in what is expected from a working professional in terms of, what should they know, and what is that change then?
If you look at the fact that I've spanned 35 years, there's certainly a change. And the change has really happened from moving from hierarchies to a meritocracy. So it's very favorable. But the big change, Sushma, is today with COVID. I believe that this is one of those pivoting moments in management and for people coming through the system where there is going to be the need for different skill sets and equally a very different perspective that managers and corporates are going to see. One of those will come, of course, from the fact that the work from home is, I believe, here to stay. It may not be 100% work from home, but every company has now got comfortable with it, and we will see this combination. But working with that combination is not easy. I was part of a Harvard Business School panel, actually, which was reviewing what are these new traits which we are going to be looking for from people in the workplace. And right up there was resilience and agility. I think the recognition is that change is going to be so much a part of the system that all of us have to be resilient and agile, pivoting to change. The organizations that get it right, the individuals that get it right are the ones that will survive. A second trait which came up is collaboration. Now, collaboration has been part of a mantra for, just eons. It's, again, being reinforced through teams and the ability of teams to work. But I believe the challenge, and I was listening to an interview of 4 of the global tech CEOs, the Satya Nadellas of the world, And they're all saying we're going to have to reinvent how collaboration looks in this new normal.
You've obviously broken the glass ceiling. You've had a lot of firsts. What would you consider the 3 diktats that you have lived by and that you think would be, which are, perennial, which they're always going to be evergreen in terms of something which you would give as advice to today's youth?
So I'm going to draw on not just what I think, but on the 30 women CEOs who I had as subjects in a book I put together, which was 30 Women in Power, their voices, their stories. And while these were women CEOs, I think the traits they talk about apply to anyone, men and women, girls and boys. And one lot was what I would call the traits. So the traits inevitably about passion for work. You have to enjoy what you're doing to get the best out of what you do. Hard work, inevitable. You have to work hard to be able to achieve. And the passion and hard work sort of go together. Another trait is collaboration and teamwork, which we touched on earlier. Important to be able to work with others because none of us have the complete skill set that is needed. So having others that can work well with you, that you can draw on, and in doing good teamwork, to have diversity and inclusion at the core. Why is diversity and inclusion important? It's not a tick box exercise of, I need women on my team, I need people from the north, I need people from the south. No, it is about diversity of ideas. So the team I have a voice, I must hear their voice. There must be disagreement at the top table at every discussion. Disagreement which is positive, we all come to a solution. Once a collective solution is arrived at, we align around that solution. We don't just hold dogmatically to our views, but airing our views and everyone having a voice is important. So the diversity of ideas and the inclusion of ideas is very important. From that flows innovation, innovation of ideas and thought. Because if we all keep thinking the same way and do the same old thing, we're not going to be able to innovate. And innovation is key in the workplace, or if we are entrepreneurs, then even more so. So these traits were outstanding and were said across the board by these women CEOs. And I'll just add one, and which is more peculiar to women, which is ambition is not necessarily bad. I would add a second area, and that is how do we, as we move into more unitary families, build our support system. And the last and third area I would say is the power of association. And I say this because there's some words of Swami Vivekananda, and let me see if I can get this right, which have always stayed with me. And he says, a drop of water which falls from the sky, if you catch it in your hand, it's clean enough for you to drink. That same drop of water, when it falls in the gutter, is not even good enough for you to wash your feet with. That drop of water on a lotus leaf is something that you would enjoy. That drop of water in an oyster could become a pearl. So how do we create that ecosystem around us that enables that drop of water to become the pearl that it could become if we can get it right? So who we associate with and the positivity we bring around us is also important. So seek the right people, the right mentors, the right individuals who help you grow and get rid of the negatives around you to the extent you can, because those only bear in on you and pull you down.
What do you think this generation is most equipped to do right? As in, especially in the light of the new normal, the new situation we're living in. What do you think will come most naturally to them?
Well, what I love about the millennials is there's a passion, there's a confidence, there is a belief in themselves. And I think we in the corporate world, those of us who've done that, have to encourage that, because that feeling of self-confidence is important. But in the process, we cannot stop learning. In fact, even when I think back about what I learned at the Harvard Business School way back in '82, 5 years after I was out of school, very little of what I learned was relevant, because education moves on. However, what we don't forget is how we learn. So the way we think, the way we learn are what is important, and the continuous learning is key. One of my most favorite Sanskrit shlokas, and I probably quote this to death, is Mahastavira Sangarakshita. To know what we do not know is the beginning of wisdom. And at any one point, there's so much that we do not know. So to be able to perennially learn, to suck up information, to ensure that we understand what we do not know. Organizations often deliver this to you on your doorstep, but we don't take it. But even when they don't, the ability to self-learn, to reach out, to sign up for programs is all part of what we can do, and it's within our reach. And that is something that we should certainly do. And the millennial is really well placed to do it because digitally savvy, able to do this, do it in your own time, do it at midnight, however you want to work. But don't forget that what you're trying to do is enhance your skills and learn and be able to deliver.
So where do you think is the gap? Because clearly they do have the confidence, they have this, they have the ability and the access to information and knowledge. So where is the gap which you see today in the market when it comes to millennials and youngsters really getting what they need to know to be more relevant in their workplaces?
I think there's a restlessness, which is a positive if it's a restlessness to acquire knowledge. It's not a positive if it is a restlessness to, oh, this isn't working me, so I'm going to move on. The ability to stay, the staying power, and I think the millennials get spoiled for choice to some extent. We didn't have that privilege. So I'm not saying that you have to stick in the same job for 35 years, but you can rethink why you want to move. Just because you don't like your boss, well, do something about working with that boss. Yeah. I've been through a career where I didn't like bosses, but it didn't mean I had to look to change jobs each time.
So with your extremely amazing career in finance, where do you think the skilling and how can education and technology really play into that? What do you think is the future? Where do you think that how can we really kind of bridge that gap?
I just wish that in my day, we could have had some of these amazing tools available to us. Because if you look at the world of finance, it's very broad. And the ability to understand where we are going with it cannot easily happen through classrooms. And you take fintech, it's changing almost on a weekly basis. There's new things happening, and it's happening all over the world, from Silicon Valley to Bangalore. So how can we get the best minds in the spaces to talk to us? And the best way would be digital. These are very busy people. They don't want to fly in to meet little groups of students. However, if we can get them to get their training, their lessons in a way which can be digitally delivered, it's huge. So the whole fintech space lends itself enormously to a digital delivery. I think even professional work in finance, even traditional sort of chartered accountancy programs and so on, can benefit from this. Because if you look at a traditional CA program, people are going to office, they attend the article clerkship sort of period in an organization, then they go home and study. But what they're having to study on their own. Whereas if we can deliver this to them in a digital way, imagine digital programs that help you to basically get ready to do the exams, but even more important, to help you to absorb what is the essence of that education rather than learning by rote. So not only is it how we deliver digital education, but also the ability of the individual to have access at a level which we otherwise would not have. So every professional program should have a digital, if not a majorly digital component to it.
An industry leader with infectious optimism and a passion for innovation in deep tech, the CEO of Singularity University, Steve Leonard.
Thank you for joining us today. We are very excited to launch Hero Wired, and we are looking forward to having a really great chat with Steve, getting his views on education, how he believes it can be reimagined, and what our future holds. From your perspective and Singularity University's perspective, what do you think? What will the technology skills be? And let's not go in the future, let's talk about for the next 3 years, 5 years, how this will evolve, what are the new skills which are going to come in?
Yeah, I think whatever happens, actually, for sure, we're going to have people think about a couple of things. One, how do you learn? And I know that sounds perhaps very generic, but how do you learn? Do you learn best by listening to something, by seeing something, by writing something, by reading something, talking about it with people? I learned through that combination. Sometimes I read a bit, then I discuss it with friends. Sometimes I'll reach out to someone and say, I don't understand, help me learn more. So I think how? Because kids may be coming out with just saying, well, I learned by reading a book or what the teacher handed me. I think this idea that I shared about, hey, introduce me to a scientist that may be in that field and he or she can share a little bit of work. Tremendous. So I think that will be, how does someone learn is important. Number two, I think reading a lot and understanding what's happening around you is critical. So I just think that too many young people, and too many people of all ages, frankly, live in a bubble in which they don't know what's happening. So I would love to talk with you at another time about what is happening with entrepreneurship in India. What is happening with entrepreneurship in different countries? You and I would have a good discussion about what is Rwanda doing as a nation in Africa that is also thinking deeply about the human capital that it has. What's happening in Bangladesh? What's happening in any market you pick? Now, you would be a good partner for me to discuss that with because you have a big perspective. If you only thought about what was happening in any one market and you didn't care about what's happening in other markets, then it wouldn't be a very fruitful discussion for either of us. So I think the idea of people being open to understanding. I might live in Singapore, but I know what's happening in Vietnam and Thailand and Indonesia because I care. And that makes my ability to discuss things with people a little bit richer. And I think that's one of the skills we need to always be pushing, whether you're an educator or an educatee, whether you are the student or the teacher. The idea of saying, I know something about the world around me is critical. And I think sometimes the world lets us look at only what is affecting us. And I think that has been a problem for many countries, including the United States and other countries that get very focused on what's happening in a geography to the exclusion of what's happening elsewhere. Climate, as an example, affects everybody. There's no way you can think about pollution in California and not think about pollution in every other country as well, because we're one global community. As one example, the pandemic has proven that in spades. You'd say, oh, I don't know, it's happening over there. Well, a week later, it's happening over where you are. And we've learned that in very real terms. So being open to learning, understanding how you learn, being open to the world around you, I think are two core components that anyone thinking about how do they prepare for the future, how do they learn, what skills? Skills are not measured by, I know Python, I know C++. I think these are just specific tools. The skill, I think, is more being aware of yourself, right? I like working with entrepreneurs. Some people don't like working with entrepreneurs because it's a very uncertain path. I enjoy that path. So I know that about myself. If people can continue to be aware, and I know it doesn't happen easily as a young person, but just being open to that experimentation, I think gives you a lot of confidence about where you fit and what you can be good at.
Steve, you've touched on a topic which is very close to my heart, which is entrepreneurship. Now, to encourage entrepreneurship, how can one create an enabling environment? In certain countries, we don't have the safety net, and failure is frowned upon. While we all know the risks associated with entrepreneurship are very high. And for us, as a nation, we need more job creators than job seekers. And large part of the globe need people to create more jobs. So what and how do we create an enabling environment which will encourage young people to take the plunge?
I'm going to come back to the words that I used. I think entrepreneurship starts with, are you curious, confident, and courageous? So if we can encourage that through the learning journey, then the idea of saying, well, I may not know the answers. In fact, I certainly don't know the answers as I start in this journey of entrepreneurship. But I have a certain amount of confidence and courage inside, right? And I'm willing to try that. That, I think, is 90% of being an entrepreneur, is having thick skin and being willing to just keep going, right? It's much easier to go to work in a company where somebody upstairs says, do these 3 things, and then you can take your lunch break. And that's not to be disrespectful to anyone, it's just some people prefer that structure. I think what we need to continue to do is to say that's great, and the world needs lots of people like that too. But we also need to think about building and creating and solving, because every big company today wasn't at some point in its journey. There is no company on the planet that was brought to life as a big company. And the only thing that you could consider is if there was a public sector company that was spun out and suddenly then privatized, maybe that. But otherwise, everything was created from scratch. IBM was an entrepreneur's dream. Google was an entrepreneur's dream, so on and so on and so on, right? Hero was an entrepreneur's dream. So all of these things have to have someone that says, I'm going to give this a try. I think what we can do is encourage people not to be fearful about, do they have the idea? What I find is that many people say, well, I'd love to do that, but I don't have, the next Facebook in my head. Like, how do I create that? My answer is always working with other people and joining forces with other people is really how companies are built. It's not like, Zuckerberg didn't start Facebook on his own and build it with his own bare hands. There's many people, including my neighbor, I'm pointing out the window, including my neighbor across the street, was one of the co-founders of Facebook and now called Singapore Home. So all of these are team effort. And I think the important thing for us to get the message across is you don't have to think of the next Facebook, the next Google. If you see a problem that's worth solving, and there are enough people that believe it's worth having solved, because if you're working in a problem no one cares about, that's not going to go very far. But if you listen to most entrepreneurs, in fact, there's a Singaporean entrepreneur that has built a company called Razer, which is famous in gaming. And if you listen to him, he was an attorney who said, as a gamer, I was unsatisfied with some of the technology that I could lay my hands on. I wanted better headsets, better keyboards, better monitors. So I decided to go and fix that because I cared about it, and so did people that I knew. Well, now it's $1 billion company. So what I would say is it's not like he sat in a room and said, what's the coolest thing I can think of to create from scratch? He found a problem that he felt was worth solving, and he worked with other people that agreed, and he found that there was a lot of people that wanted that solution. So I think, back to your point about job creators, working together to say, I'm good at this, you're good at that, she's good at this other thing, the 3 of us can go form a company on this problem. That's entrepreneurship. Too many people get stuck trying to visualize that they have to come up with some idea that no one's ever thought of and then form it. And they say, well, since I can't do that, I might as well not start. But that's not the deal. There's always something that has to be improved. Can you improve water, sanitation? Oh, that's a worldwide market. Can you improve food distribution? Worldwide market. Can you improve the recycling process to put less things in the ground or burn less things? Worldwide market. Can you think of packaging food without plastic waste? Worldwide market. All of these things actually represent worldwide markets. And so my only message would be, don't tell yourself that you have to come up with some idea that no one in history has ever thought of, because very few people do.
Now, coming to my next question, Steve, what are your views on traditional education and edtech? Do you think at some point these two will merge, or they will continue coexisting in silos?
If you remember, we have e-commerce and physical stores, like they were 2 different things. Now, of course, you don't think about this in retail. You would think, take a look at Flipkart or any example. So you think about these things, which is, I don't think e-commerce or a store. I think when I want to purchase something, what's the right way to do that? It might be in person, because I'd like to experience the product before I purchase it. It might be, I know what I need, I just need 2 more of them, please do that online. Those have now become seamless, so to speak. Fintech would be another example. When you take a look at Paytm, or you take a look at any of these examples where you don't say, do I need a bank or do I have a mobile payment app? The answer is they're different things. I need them for different reasons. If I'm going to purchase an asset, and I need to think about a long-term loan. I need to just pay the bill at the restaurant. I have a mobile app. So fintech and banking have become inextricably linked. And I see the same path for education. Today I go to a school, I sit in a classroom. I'm a big fan, and Singularity is working on this as we speak, about neuroadaptive learning, which is even with a headset, you can say, I am getting feedback. I'm getting EEG signals that come back and say, this is making sense. It's not making sense. I look at pupil dilation and eye movement. Is someone paying attention? EdTech is not a COVID fad. It's not a short-term thing. There will not be education in the future that is not enabled by technology, just to say it that way.
Great, Steve. Let me come to my last question. In the next 2 to 3 years, what do you see will be the new technologies which are coming in? I know Singularity does a lot of work on future of technologies, and they map the new technologies which have come in the last 24 months. So which are the ones you would see which will get operationalized in 2022 or 2023?
Mm-hmm. For sure, I think things that involve automation will continue to increase. I think our goal, as it is for many people, would be anything that is dirty, dangerous, dull, using those sorts of words, we should continue to automate. We do not want human beings cleaning sewer pipes. We do not want human beings trying to, disarm explosives in a minefield. I mean, some of these things are just morally obvious that we would want automation, robotics to be able to help us with, and we can. So I would say in the next 24 months, things around autonomous transportation, like for example, here in Singapore, we're experimenting with driverless buses to think about moving people on the island safely, but in more efficient ways. So automation around transportation, and I hope AI around healthcare, which is my other committed belief. We need more healthcare in the world to get more people served, and we can't do that without adding automation. There's just too many people and not enough doctors and nurses. Certainly things around food. We need more climate-resistant food, things like drought-resistant rice, less waste. These things are going to be important. We have a lot of people working on food-related products because we have far too many people in the world that are starving, and we need to work hard to try and think of how we can bring more food to people without putting more strain on the planet. Obviously, things like growing tomatoes in Australia and flying them halfway around the world is not the best way for us to get food to people while also hurting the planet. So we need to think about that. Those would be a few examples. And I'd love for us to work with entrepreneurs that you see, that you have knowledge of in the ecosystem, because as I mentioned earlier, India has more intellectual capital than probably any country on the planet. And so it's just a question now of how can we try and really benefit the world from that. The best thing that we can do is just say, I don't know the answers, but that's okay, because I know that together with others, we'll find the answers. So please count on me. Since I live in Singapore, at least I'm your neighbor. I'm happy to be of help personally. Singularity University looks forward to collaborating with what you're doing at HeroX and BMU. So please count on us to be a good teammate, because this is a team sport. This is bigger than any of us. It's really, truly a team sport.
A passionate storyteller and an intelligent strategizer. The former head of Xbox India and a leader in the gaming industry. He's now a highly appreciated stand-up comic. With over 30 million YouTube views, a breakout star. Let's take the leap with Anshu Moore.
Hi, my name is Sushma Bharat, and now with us we have the ex-head of Xbox and current stand-up comic extraordinaire, Anshu Moore.
Hi.
Hi Anshu, thanks for being with us today.
It's a pleasure.
So starting things off, in your current industry, people see the stardom, they see the fun life, the exciting, but they don't see the struggle that it takes to get there. What has been your story? What do you think that people are really missing out on when they see you?
I think people don't miss out on anything. They see what they have to see, which is us on stage under the spotlight and just doing what we do. But my story has pretty much been the same as any other artist, which is that when you get into a field like this, you have a lot of confidence. And that's the reason you kind of quit things and get into stuff like this. Right? When you think you're very, very good at whatever it is. So I also thought that I was very good at stand-up comedy. I could make people laugh and all those things. And then I went on stage for the first time. And I bombed. Like there was like dead silence. Like, nobody was even smiling when I went up. And it happened again and again and again and again. And that's when you realize that just confidence is not good enough. You have to understand the craft, right? And I think that's the struggle. The first initial struggle is to understand where you are in your craft and then to become better. And it's very, very difficult, especially in a field like ours, primarily because there is no other way to learn this craft other than to bomb in front of audiences. So you have to get up on stage and fail and, get this ego-crushing, soul-crushing experience of nobody laughing at your jokes. And that's how you learn. So you keep going back, keep going back. That's the initial struggle. I think the struggle which happens after that, after you've kind of established yourself and people start recognizing, is to keep it balanced. Because I was coming from a very different world, which is a corporate world, right? And for me, this whole people recognizing you, people taking selfies, etc., was not a thing, right? It was not something that happened to me anytime. So when it started happening, I used to have a conversation with a lot of other comedians that this can get to your head. Very easily can get to your head. If you're sitting in a coffee shop, somebody recognizes you and comes over, it just gets to your head, right? So keep that balance, I think, is the second bigger challenge or the struggle to get this going.
Okay. No, I think it's an interesting point you brought up about this generation as well. And coming from your experience, what do you think this generation has a surplus of?
Confidence, I think. I think it's confidence. What I've realized is that and I get to speak to a lot of young people because of the shows and after shows and stuff like that. And most of them come back, we start, for some reason, we start talking about career and following passion and what they can do in their lives. And I've realized one thing, there is a lot of confusion because there are too many opportunities. Like when I was growing up, there were only two or three, right? Become an engineer, become a doctor or whatever. But now there are too many opportunities. So there's a lot of confusion with young people, no doubt about it. Like they're not sure which way to go. But there is also this unique confidence that they have that whichever way they go, that they'll try, they'll fail, they'll try, they'll fail, but eventually everything will get sorted out.
Mm-hmm. So passion seems to be the driving force there. Yeah. I mean, what do you think really constitutes passion?
See, passion, I think first of all, passion for some reason is a very romanticized word these days. Everybody thinks that passion means that there's some filmy moment which is going to happen into your life and then everything's going to be rosy. And then the other notion is that if you want to follow your passion, you have to quit working and do something else. Like quit a job and then do something else to follow your passion. I don't agree with both of them. I think there's an initial romance that you're following passion. There's an excitement that, hey, I'm finally doing what I want to do. But it hits you very hard, very quickly when you realize, what the struggle is to make a career out of it. And second is this notion that, it has to be something in the artistic field or some other area. I don't think so. I've seen a lot of people, even in corporate life, who are very passionate about the industry they're in or passionate about the company they're in.
Yeah. We talked about how this present generation definitely doesn't have a lack of confidence. Yeah. But what do you think is the gap? What do you think that they do lack? Not maybe lack is a strong word, but where do you think is the place that they can truly improve upon? And here I'm talking about it from a much larger perspective, from your experience in the corporate world, from your experience of just your audience, from just generally.
I think the biggest gap is understanding how to make your passion into a career. That's a huge gap because a lot of people, a lot of youngsters, and actually for any age, doesn't matter, somehow jump into these kind of things, saying, hey, this is my passion, I'm going to love it. And over time, especially in artistic fields, they tend to get into this zone which is like, I am an artist and I don't care about anything else. And eventually then they stop making money out of it, or they don't even start in some cases. And when the money is lesser, then the frustration comes in. And when the frustration comes in, everything which is negative comes into play, right? Which is they start looking at others and the jealousy and the politics and all of that. And that's the gap in understanding how to make money in the business that you are getting into.
I think then to take on from there, this has been an extremely interesting year, for lack of better words. I think most of us are not even sure if it's in a year and a half. We've all lost track of time. If you had to do a set about EdTech, the forced EdTech that has also happened, where we've all had to start moving online, and the pandemic, and students, and 2020, what do you think what would be the big line for that?
It's a very interesting question. I think the major hook around which the entire thing would be the online experiences that everybody's had, and then the experiences with your own family. Like I thought I knew my wife. We've been married for 23 years, and then for the first time during lockdown, I heard her on office calls, and she was a very different woman. Like, I used to think she was very caring and stuff like that, and then I saw her playing politics. I was like, who are you types, you know? So the whole hook and the whole center would be around these experiences that everybody has had. I think the first part was staying with the family. With everything going great, it was still a problem. And online, my son has been doing classes online. He went to college, by the way, in 2019. He was very happy. He was like freedom and all. Then came back in March of 2020. And these guys are not studying here. These guys are just having it's just logging into something. Everybody's cameras has gotten off for some reason. The moment they get into a class, the laptop shuts down or whatever, the camera shuts down. I think those would be the hooks around which.
To wrap up, I read somewhere that the movie Tamasha has really inspired you. Can you give us a little bit more on that?
It's actually a true story, without exaggeration. There's no exaggerations in this. We went to see Tamasha on a Sunday evening, 2016. And while we were coming back in the car, I was having a conversation with my wife and my son about following passion. Yeah, because the whole movie was about following passion and stuff like that. And there was a point in the car when my wife asked me, she said, you keep talking about following passion. You've done that before, you're doing it now. If you were allowed to do whatever you have to do, then what would you do? And I was like, I'd be on stage holding a mic. I didn't even say making people laugh. I was just like, I'll be on stage holding a mic. And she said, what is stopping you from doing this? And I was actually nothing. And she said, then why don't you go ahead and do it? And that was the end of conversation. This is in the car while going home. When we reached home, there was no conversation around this. Next morning, she was getting ready to go to work. In fact, she was just heading out of the house. And I just told her very casually, saying, hey, I'm going to resign today. And she just looked at me and she said, good, fine, go ahead, do it. And I went to office and resigned. That was it. It was as simple as that, that I just quit and said, hey, I'm just going to become a stand-up comedian now.
Oh, that's okay.
A lot of people don't believe it, but that's a fact. Yeah.
And I think and finally to close, what would be your advice to this generation who has just really been caught up in things that they didn't want to be caught up in, pandemic and learning and passion and just so many choices. If you had to just say one line to them, one diktat to live by, what would it be?
My one advice to this generation is whatever they decide to do, they have to understand it's a long game. Nothing comes easy. Success won't come easy. Celebrity status won't come easy, business profits won't come easy. It's a long game. So they're willing to invest their time and energy and hard work into doing what they think that they want to do, then they should go in for the long haul. It can't be as simple as just saying, hey, just because I decided to become a comedian, it doesn't matter. You still have to go through the cycle.